Hello, YouTube. My name is Alan, and it's that time once again. Let's talk metal. For this episode, we're going to be revisiting a few French heavy metal bands that came up during the Heavy Metallurgy stream that was recently done on French heavy metal. Marty and I were lucky enough to have Daniel Ekeroth join us on the stream for the first time. A really nice guy and a terrific guest. Most folks know Daniel, of course, as the author of the Swedish death metal book, but he's authored several other books and has performed in many bands over the years. And when Daniel approached us about being on the show, he asked if we could cover the topic of French heavy metal, which is a scene that he's really into, and it made for a great conversation. I hadn't listened to a lot of French heavy metal bands in recent years, but I did, have material by a lot of them, just hadn't spun it in a while. So it was a good chance for me to revisit those bands and kind of, brush up on what they sounded like. When you have a fairly large record collection, stuff sometimes, sits on the shelf and just doesn't get played for a few years and you get a little bit rusty on it. So it was a really cool chance to dig back into some of the French heavy metal scene. And I figured what better way to let folks know more about these bands and to actually give folks a chance to hear them. Because on Heavy Metallurgy, we don't play any sound clips or anything like that because StreamYard doesn't necessarily like that popping up. Can cause issues with copyrights and stuff like that. But here on Let's Talk Metal, nothing's monetized and I keep the clips relatively short. I've never had any copyright issues come up. So today I've picked out three of the smaller, lesser known bands that we talked about on the stream and want to play a few clips and stuff by them so that folks have a chance to hear what they actually sound like. Now, I don't have any physical products to show off by these bands because they really didn't get past the demo stage. They have had some material released a little bit later, but I'll just be showing some pictures, but I do have sound clips booted up so we can check out what the bands sound like. Now, before we get into these three bands, something I noticed while preparing for the French heavy metal stream is that there were a lot of French bands that ended up using the same band name as a more famous band from a different part of the world. And this, of course, can be a little bit confusing. For example, if you say the name Satan, most people immediately think of the British new wave of British heavy metal band Satan. But there's also a French Satan. And actually, in several cases, there's more than one French band that used that particular name. So you might also have to stop and figure out which French Satan are we talking about. I'm pointing this out just in case anybody wants to go and look up more information on these bands, shop for material by them, just add them to YouTube playlists for fun. Do be careful that you pick the correct band, the one that you're actually interested in, because yeah, nothing's worse than like ordering a CD thinking like, yay, I finally found that Legend CD I wanted, having it arrive and realizing that it's a completely different band. It's happened to many of us. So, yeah, be mindful with some of these French bands that there may be more than one of them, and some of the names are very common. All right, I think we are ready to go to our first band. This is a French act called Legend. Now, again, I can think of at least three other legends that are relevant to heavy metal fans right away. There's the US Legend. In the late 70s, they made the From the Fjords album, kind of a cult classic from early hard rock heavy metal stuff. And there were two bands named Legend on the new wave of British heavy metal scene. One of them was from, is it like the Isle of Wight? It's kind of an obscure location. I think they made one single. The best known one is the band that did the Death in the Nursery LP. And they had a second LP as well. None of those are the Legend we're talking about here. Uh, the band that I'm going to showcase is this band. They have a distinct logo, which helps. So if you see this logo, this is the right one. It's usually kind of like an orange reddish color, but grades to yellow near the bottom. Right. So this particular band, made a demo in 1987. And because all these names are going to be French today, I'll stumble through them as best I can. Apologies for the mispronunciations. But Mandragore was a demo they did in 87, had some good songs on it. I've heard the demo, it's quite solid. And this band did release a single in 1988. I have seen the date 1983 attached to the single before, but I think that's an error. The sites I've checked online all have 1988 listed, so I think 1983 was just a typo that had come up once upon a time. Right, the single had a picture sleeve and a color picture sleeve. All right, maybe not the best graphics, but it's 1988 when this came out, and it's a basically a privately pressed 7-inch single. But let's check out clips from the songs here. First one that we will try is the track, and let's give this a shot. Le Porteur de Lumière by Legend, 1988.
Quelle chute as-tu faite du haut des cieux? Astre du matin, fils de l'aurore. Tu disais en ton cœur, j'escaladerai les cieux. J'érigerai mon trône sur les étoiles de Dieu. Je monterai sur les plus hautes nues. En élixir, ouais, convoitise ton boucher. L'assaut des archanges aux défenseurs de la foi. Le créateur opposant sa toute puissance.
Okay, so there's the first side of the Legend single from 1988. Decent sound to it. It's got kind of mid-paced gallop, speeds up a little bit as the song goes on. One thing I've noticed about songs by a lot of these bands, they from the French scene in the 1980s, is that they did have kind of moving parts in the songs. They didn't just play at one tempo through the entire thing. Vocalist, pretty good mid-range singer. So yeah, not a bad track at all. Let's go ahead and check out the flip side of that single as well. This track will be called Les Enfants de la Rempete.
Confronte l'ombre dans un maudit sommeil de sang. Dans les méandres où il sombre, dans le labyrinthe terre. La folie de ce monde, dont le temps s'est brisé, dans ce sort, les jours où les âmes immondes, s'anciens libraires, leur dernier ressort.
All right, so yeah, another pretty good track there. Once again, you can hear they're changing tempos along the way, speeding up there when they get towards the middle. That one features more of a synthesizer sound, which does have a very dated 80s kind of sound, but it's also not dominating the track. It's being used in the background here and there. So, yeah, overall, another pretty good song. Something you'll notice with both of those tracks, and which I think is true of a lot of the French bands that were playing traditional heavy metal in the 1980s, based on my limited sample size, is that, they have a pretty clean, polished sound. not to the point of being, highly like accessible stuff you'd hear on the radio, just that, yeah, it's a pretty well developed sound. They don't tend to sound rough around the edges or anything like that. They definitely have their stuff together and know how to play. So that is Legend from France. Now, the Legend story has a relatively happy ending because they have gotten a little more attention in recent years. There was a compilation of material put out, and let's pull that up so folks know what to look for. This was put out on Moonstriker Records, which I'm not familiar with. It uses the same cover art as the single, so I think you'll remember that pretty easy. But yeah, this compilation came out in 2020. It includes the demo I mentioned from 1987. It's got the single on it, and then also a live tape from 1989. So you get a good number of tracks, 15 tracks on it. So nice collection there. And there is more. Legend have finally released a full album of original material. It is referred to as, let's see, Les Derniers Anges, and has this particular cover. This is available on Bandcamp. So if you want to check it out there, you certainly can. And if you want to, purchase it digitally, I don't know if they have physical copies for sale through Bandcamp or not, but the album is there for folks to check out. It's listed as an independent release that came out in 2022. So kind of cool that even after all this time, Legends managed to still be active, and it's something I'm going to check out in the near future. I haven't had a chance to hear the newer material, but based on the demo and the single, they definitely knew what they were doing. Pretty talented songwriters, and yeah, that stuff might be worth picking up. The anthology collection in particular is something I'll be keeping an eye out for. All right, up next we have a band from France that never even got to the demo stage, as far as I can tell. This band is named Satan. And yes, there are other heavy metal Satans out there, but the one we're talking about only appeared on one 1993 compilation. The compilation has the somewhat hilarious name of Avant-Garde, play on avant-garde, of course. The cover doesn't really tell you much. No, if anything, you'd probably assume this was some kind of punk or hardcore compilation based on the way the band names are spelled out. But yeah, right over here is the one that we're going to be interested in, Satan. The other bands have metal sounding names, but I don't know anything about them because I don't even have a digital copy of this entire comp. I only have the three songs from Satan that somebody provided MP3s of years ago. So let's check out a little bit of this French Satan. And again, there's at least two French Satans to my knowledge, so you have to look for the one on this compilation. First clip we'll listen to is a song called Rapid Flight. And it's like with the legend clips, I'll start the clip out, but if the song intro is starting to drag out, we'll jump into the middle of the song so you have a better idea of what it sounds like.
After the show that you have made, you'll find a girl in your bed. Without shame, she begins to fight. She met the motion that you like. In the heat of the night, if she always wants more, if she takes no delight, you look at her back door. Alright, there's even pride, drink all you can. Don't be afraid you're on the run.
So yeah, really killer track there. Interesting too, this band sings in English. A lot of French bands elected to sing in French instead. But yeah, really heavy sound there. More of a gruff vocalist, can maybe closer to like, territory, from Germany's Gravedigger in the vocal department. But tight song, really strong material, wouldn't stand out of place if I told you that was some unknown German traditional power metal band from the early 90s. Eh, yeah, most people would think that sounds about right. Let's check out one of the other tracks. There are three Satan tracks on this comp. We'll also check out a clip of Heroes of the Dark Light.
Came from maybe small depth of a cold and a misty brain. We're the knights of no skulls, slaves of weird chains. Looking for a princess with a cider in the end. The Reaper is a name, and she'll come from your hand. We are the heroes of the dark light. Riding the stallions of death. We are the heroes of the dark light. We are going on your way.
But yeah, really great track there as well. Kind of more of a slow anthemic pounder. Works fantastic though. It seems like a crime that this band doesn't have more material available. But, I checked Metal Archives. I've checked, a few other places online trying to find out more about the band. And there's just nothing. One compilation with those three songs are it. This is the only image that you've got on Metal Archives. I'm guessing this is maybe a, snippet from the compilation itself. Um, yeah, if anybody has more information about this version of Satan from France, please share in the comments down below because seems like an outstanding band that just maybe came and went before they had a chance. Um, really like those songs. The third track is good too. But we're going to move on to band number three. This is a French band named Slaughter, which again is a band name that's been used by much more famous acts. Some pretty popular acts if you get into the Slaughter from the US with Mark Slaughter, kind of a glam thing. The Slaughter that we're talking about in this instance has this particular logo. Um, Kind of looks, like a little bit more of maybe a rougher underground type logo, and with the name Slaughter, you might expect something heavier. But this band's going to operate, in more again that kind of more polished, epic kind of you might call it classy sounding to a degree. Um, they had one demo, 1986, and it's just called Demo, so a little easier on the song titles here. Let's go to the clips and hear a couple of things from the French Slaughter. First clip will come from the song Excalibur. Yeah, very epic sound there. Great guitar melody, nice epic flair to the music. Kind of everything you want out of classic 1980s traditional heavy metal. Great sounding song. Let's check out a clip from one more. This will be Hot Tonight. Yeah, that's as good as just about any US power metal you'll hear from the 80s as well. Again, French vocalists often, were capable of working in the higher registers. Slaughter, fantastic vocalist. You heard it there. The proof is in the sound clip. So yeah, fantastic band. One thing I notice about all three songs on this Slaughter demo is they run a little long. All three songs are in that like 6 minute area. Probably could have been, compacted just a little bit. The songs are very good, don't get me wrong. It just feels like it's a little strange that all three songs go for this, much longer length on the very first debut demo. But it also shows they were capable of writing and writing extremely well. This image that I've shown a couple of times is from a vinyl reissue of the demo. This came out in 2010 on a small German label called Fils du Metal. Fils du Metal was a project by Peter Daub, D-A-U-B. Peter's a pretty big collector in heavy metal circles. He was really active in the Colosseum website years ago. I don't know if he still checks in over there very often or not, but like back in the late 2000s, early 2010s, uh, Peter contributed a lot of material over there. He's also dealt in records. I ordered a bunch of stuff from him on at least one occasion. And Phil's to Metal, his label, was specifically targeting releases like this, bands that had put out an excellent demo but never got, to the vinyl stage. He recorded a album by the band Thruster out of Ohio, who had made a cassette-only release in the mid 80s, and it's fantastic, but it never had a CD or a vinyl pressing. So those were the kinds of things that Peter, wanted to put out on his label. They were always hard to get in the US. You had to, order them from overseas, of course. But he tended to pick out really high quality stuff. The few examples I've heard, all of them, you're just immediately like, yeah, that really did need a vinyl release. Thank you for putting it out. That's amazing. And the Slaughter demo's no exception. Some of these on Phil's to Metal also do come on different colors of vinyl. Even though they were relatively small print runs, you will see some colored vinyl variants. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, you can have fun tracking those down. All right, so there you go. Three bands from the French heavy metal scene, kind of mid 80s into the early 90s. All three sound fantastic to me. Might be things that you want to check out further. But that's going to do it for this episode. So now let's talk metal in the comments down below. What do you think of these particular bands? Are there other bands from the French heavy metal scene that you think people deserve to be checked out by more folks? If so, leave a quick description of them in the comments down below, and people can go and find clips on YouTube, check those bands out as well. There's obviously tons of great stuff that came up on the Heavy Metallurgy stream. Daniel showed off a lot of amazing old French vinyl stuff, things that you very rarely see, especially in the United States. So check that out if you haven't had a chance to. Share your knowledge of other French bands with folks who are reading the comments, and we can all check out some really cool stuff. All right, until next time, everybody take care, and as always, keep je ne sais quoi. Oh, I was going to say keep banging your head in French, but that's just not going to work. Let's not even pretend it did. Everybody take care.